Antarctica. It's the coldest, most remote continent on our planet. A massive, frozen world that's pretty much untouched by us. But what if buried deep under all that ice, we could find the answers to some of humanity's biggest, oldest questions?
You know, it really is the last truly unexplored place on Earth. For as long as we can remember, we've just seen it as this barren wasteland, frozen solid for millions of years. But what if that's not the whole story? What kind of secrets are just waiting down there to be found?
And this is the really provocative idea we're going to dig into today. Some people are convinced that Antarctica doesn't just hold clues about our planet's climate, but about a lost chapter of human history, a history that could literally change everything we think we know about ourselves.
So, where does a story this wild even begin? Well, it starts with the discovery that, according to mainstream science, just shouldn't be there at all. Something that really challenges our entire understanding of this frozen continent.
You're not going to believe this. Pyramids. As the glaciers have started to melt and recede, satellite images have picked up what look like these massive, four-sided structures. Now, of course, most geologists will tell you these are just natural pyramid-shaped mountains. They're called nunataks. But a lot of people aren't so sure, especially when they look so uncannily similar to the famous pyramids at Giza.
And the scale we're talking about here is just staggering. One of these things, over by the Shackleton Mountain Range, looks to be a near-perfect square, 2 kilometers on each side. If that was man-made, it would be more than double the size of any other pyramid on the entire planet.
You see, the main argument that this thing wasn't just made by nature comes down to its alignment. As a satellite analyst named Joseph Weiss pointed out, the structure lines up almost perfectly with north, south, east, and west. Natural rock formations, they almost never, ever do that. It just screams intelligence, like someone designed it that way.
Okay, so let's say they are pyramids. Who could have possibly built them? Antarctica has been a frozen block of ice for supposedly millions of years. But our next clue suggests that some very ancient mapmakers knew about a very different Antarctica, one without any ice at all.
So get this. Back in 1531, centuries before we officially even discovered Antarctica, a map gets published by Orontius Phineas, and it doesn't just show the continent's outline, it shows an interior with rivers and mountains completely ice-free. How could the mapmaker have possibly known what was hiding underneath a 2-mile-thick ice sheet? And the mystery just gets deeper. People who believe this theory point to a U.S. Air Force analysis from the 1960s that actually concluded the source for this map had to be way older and far more advanced. They argued that to map those under-ice features so accurately, you'd either need our modern technology or a map that was made back when the continent was actually green. Now, an ice-free Antarctica with a thriving civilization? It sounds impossible, I know. But theorists point to a really controversial geological theory that might just explain how a temperate paradise could have been flash frozen in like a geological instant.
It's called the Earth crust displacement theory, and it was proposed by a guy named Charles Hapgood. The basic idea is that the Earth's entire outer crust can shift all at once, kind of like the skin of an orange slipping around the fruit. So a continent like Antarctica could be violently shoved from a warm zone all the way to the South Pole, almost overnight. Now, it's a super controversial idea, but it was so intriguing that Albert Einstein himself wrote the foreword to Hapgood's book. So if Hapgood's theory is right, it gives us a potential explanation. It suggests that a highly advanced civilization, the kind that could build massive pyramids, might have existed on a green Antarctica and then been catastrophically frozen in place about 12,000 years ago, right at the end of the last ice age. Right? But this whole story doesn't just end in the ancient past. Oh no. According to these theories, knowledge of Antarctica's secrets was rediscovered in the 20th century, and it sparked this secret race for power that, some say, is still going on today. So, right before World War II, the Nazis launched this secret expedition to the continent. And according to some sources, they weren't just there to explore. They were hunting for lost technology and relics of a so-called super race. The rumors even claim they set up a massive secret underground base there called Base 211.
Then, after the war, the U.S. launches something called Operation High Jump. Now, the official story was it was a scientific expedition, but it was a full-on military operation. We're talking 4,700 troops, an aircraft carrier, the whole deal. Theorists claim its real purpose was to find and destroy that secret Nazi base. The mission was supposed to last for 6 months. But it got cut short after just a few weeks under really mysterious circumstances.
And the stories that supposedly came out of that mission? They're wild. Some alleged accounts claim the U.S. fleet was attacked, and not by Nazis, but by these incredibly advanced, disc-shaped craft that came flying out of the water at impossible speeds, firing beams that could slice warships in half. The whole task force was supposedly forced into a pretty humiliating retreat. So what's going on down there today? Well, if these theories have any truth to them, the cover-up hasn't stopped. In fact, a string of modern anomalies and whistleblower accounts suggest the secrets of Antarctica are still being very, very heavily guarded.
Okay, check this out. Under 2 miles of ice at a place called Lake Vostok, scientists have found a huge magnetic anomaly, literally the size of a city. And then you have a naval flight engineer who's come forward to say his crew didn't just see silver darting UFOs, but they also flew over this massive hole in the ice in a no-fly zone that totally messed with all their instruments. And this whistleblower, who we only know as Brian, he says that right after they discovered this hole, this entrance into the ice, his entire crew was debriefed by these mystery men from Washington, D.C., and they were told in no uncertain terms to forget everything they saw and never, ever speak of it again.
And that really brings us to the final, biggest question. Are these just incredible stories, or are they clues pointing to a truth that could change the world? If the pyramids, the advanced technology, the lost civilizations, if any of it is real, then as the ice continues to melt, we might be on the edge of a discovery that rewrites our entire history. We might just find a forgotten past, frozen in time, just waiting.